Welcome to the show, everybody. That is Ghost Squad Scotland tonight. My name is Drew. You all know me probably as Drew's Paranormal Vlog. Christopher is the main host, but I am hosting the show tonight. So hello, people. How are you, Christopher, tonight?
Yes. I'm actually fine. You've done very well there.
Thank you. I'm
Hey,
nervous,
Drew.
guys.
Hi,
You put
Chris.
this on me. You just hit this bit on me tonight. You know my memory. I'm too busy to remember these things. So tonight we're going to talk to Christine, guys, and Christine's got a very entertaining job. That's not true. She's got a very interesting job. Sorry. She's got a very entertaining house before I leave. It's very haunted. So would you like to tell us a bit about yourself, Christine, and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm a aged care worker. So in Australia, we have nursing homes for people that can no longer live safely in their own home, and I look after them, whether they be high care or low care.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you do stuff at home as well then, as in you look after them in their own homes. That must be interesting.
No, it's in a nursing home. So we have hostels and nursing homes here. So we can look after them in their own home. Some people do home care. I just work in a nursing home, so an aged care facility. So our one is an 81-bed facility, and we cater for everyone from low care, high care, and dementia. And we also do palliative care.
Well, that's a bit.
That's actually something
81 patients.
That's actually something I wanted to get into with this kind of subject, is the dementia side of stuff. I'd just like to say to everybody in the chat, welcome for coming. Thank you very much for coming. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed. But I had a question for you, Christine. And my grandmother had really bad dementia, right? When she passed away. Do you think I've heard of this, and I don't know, Drew, if you've heard of this, is like sometimes just before they die, they'll like wake up and they'll look at everybody and they'll recognize everybody in the room and they'll say hi to them and then they'll die. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't.
I've heard of that before, but Christine, I know more about it.
But I guess it depends on what type of dementia and how they are. Like, you've got a lot of ranges of dementia, from just cognitive impairment to not knowing anyone, not doing anything. So I guess it depends. Look, we have people that go in and out of remembering people. They can not remember who you are 1 minute and know everybody the next. So it just depends. Everybody's so different.
See, it was quite strange with my grandmother. I was just going to say it was quite strange with my grandmother because it's fine. It's because she was okay, but she had really dementia. Like, she was really, really bad. She didn't know who MD was except for me.
Yep.
And then 2 days later, she taken like a stroke, and she couldn't do nothing. She was just like moaning, and she actually stopped eating and drinking. That's what ended up.
That's common,
you know.
Right.
But I always wondered that before she died, I wonder if she just remembered, because I have heard cases where they have maybe sat up in bed and looked at their daughter or looked at their son and said, "I have to go now," you know.
Yeah, look, there's some people, most of the time they still have a long-term memory. And it would not surprise me that in those last moments that they would have a recollection. But I don't know. I haven't really looked into that, so I can't say 100%. It'd be great if it was.
Well, yeah. So I've seen that. I've knew some cases where, like, maybe you look like your daughter or something, and a lot of the time, like, say it's your gran, they'll get you mixed up with. They'll say, "Oh, hello, Andrina," and they'll think that I was my mum Helen or something. That type of scenario. A lot of the time when people have got like dementia problems, I've noticed that. where they get people mixed up. So does that mean they're trying to recognise people? Right.
I think they do a lot of the time. I think for me, I feel that they're trapped in their own body.
Right.
They really are.
Right.
And they're always, everyone, like, you think yourself, my uncle had Alzheimer's and he remembered us some days and then he didn't others. And he ended up passing away from complications due to Alzheimer's. But you could tell a lot of the time he was trying to do things. He was trying to remember things because the long-term memory, a lot of the time, is the last part to go. You still keep a lot of that long-term memory. It's the short-term memory that's not good. But again, it depends on what type of Alzheimer's you've got.
Have you, right, here's an interesting question. At the place you work, right, have you ever had a case where the patients had really bad dementia and they didn't know MD? They basically, you know how they kind of mumble, that they don't really speak. That I'm talking really bad dementia. They've passed away, but then you've seen them again. They've came back as if to say goodbye, kind of thing, when they passed.
Yeah, we've had.
Could you tell us?
I've seen a few people, and I was actually talking to one of my work colleagues the other day, and she asked me if I'd seen the lady in the white dress. So apparently we have a lady in a white dress that's always at our facility. I haven't seen her yet, so now I'm going to go on the lookout for that. But
you've got to jump in, yeah.
I've had people that there was one lady in particular. I was walking down a hall with a couple of friends, a couple of work colleagues, and there was two of us that looked into this room because just in our peripheral we could see someone sitting in this lady's recliner. She passed away probably 24 to 48 hours before, and we could swear she was sitting there, and we both turned and I gone, did you just see what I saw? And he said, what did you see? I said, she's sitting in her chair. And he said, yep, I saw the same thing. And she stayed there until her belongings were picked up. And then we didn't see her again.
Oh.
So it's, I think people stay for their attachment to their belongings, want to make sure that their belongings go where they want them. But other people just, that's their home. They could come in and not have dementia or have mild cognitive impairment. And then by the time they pass away, they could have very advanced dementia or they could have other advanced comorbidities. And that's the last home they know. So it's
sad, isn't it?
I'd love to sit down and talk to them like we're talking now and ask them so many questions.
I know. Do you find that they make friends in there that even though... Sorry, Christopher. Do you find that they make friends with each other in the home?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've had people come in and they've been devastated when someone's passed away because that's their family. They do have... They have their biological family, but these people they're with 24/7. So some people only come out for meals. Some people come out all the time, but that's their family.
Right.
And you have other people that just don't get along. Same thing, but it's that is their family.
So do you find then when the people pass away? Sorry. Do you find when people pass away that if they have made friends, if they've made a friend and then they pass away, maybe the friend that they were close to is still there, do you find a lot of the time that they hang around that person until it's their time to pass then, and then they go off together, much like you do your family?
I don't know.
A family friend, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know that.
Just with them having dementia and them forgetting their own families, it makes you wonder if in their brain, when they pass away, they know obviously once they pass that their own families are their family. But it makes you wonder if that connection that they've made all that time that they've been in the home also becomes personal to them and they want to hang around that area until their friend passes to make sure even that their family has turned up for them or just to say, come with me, you know. It'd be nice to think that.
I think there's a few people that would love that. But I don't know, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's short-term memory a lot of the time that goes first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It would just be nice to think that they came back to let their friends know that everything will be okay.
Back.
You know, like
I
two
think
close
that's still
friends
come in.
had dementia and one passes.
I think they'd still come in and check on their friends. But again, like all relationships, some people care so much for another person for their own reasons, and that other person may not care as much for them, but they still class them as a friend. So it's I don't know.
Have you ever experienced it? I know people that's experienced this, right? And they didn't know what to do when that started happening. They would go to their relatives, they'd be in their bed, they'd be dying of cancer. They didn't have dementia, right? The cancer, right? And they had all their marbles, basically, right?
Yeah, we've had people pass away that are still cognitive.
And they'd be in their bed and they would look to the corner and say, my dad's coming to pick me up tonight. And the person sitting next to them would go, what? My dad's coming to take me away tonight. And they'll be, okay, 11 o'clock tonight, he's coming to get me. Okay, 11 o'clock comes and the person dies.
We haven't had that, but I have had something similar personally with my own mother.
Right.
My mum's had a number of, she's in hospital at the moment actually, but she's had a number of heart attacks, strokes and mini strokes. And it was Christmas Eve one day, we were at her house and she was standing up talking to me 1 minute, next minute she was on the floor, eyes fixed, dilated, not breathing. She'd had a stroke. And when we got to hospital, like we got her back, we got to hospital, she turned around and told them, I'm leaving, I've got to go home, my mum's waiting for me. Her mum passed away 12 months before. She said, my mum's at my house waiting for me. So that to me confirmed that we do see our loved ones eventually. We're going to see them all again. It's just where we see them.
It's so strange, isn't it? I mean, I've heard tales. I've heard people telling me they've went in to see their relatives that are dying in hospital and stuff like that, and they've pointed to the corner, and people that can't speak because they've got maybe throat cancer or something like that, they can't speak. They've pointed to the corner, and they keep pointing, and people just are like amazed. It's like, what do you actually think happens, Christine? What do you think happens in the very end?
Wow. I was there when my father passed away. I've been there when my residents have passed away, and everyone's different, very different. Yes. I will always, my belief is I will always open the window so that their spirit can leave. Some people think that if the door's open, other beliefs are their feet have to be facing the door in some cultures, otherwise their soul's trapped in that room. I like to have the window open, so one, there's fresh air coming in, but if they want to leave, they can leave. It's up to them. I spoke to my father right up until he passed away. My father was a big Elvis fan. I told him we got an Elvis impersonator to come in, and here we have people that will sing. They'll come in and they will sing to people that are palliative. Just
that's good.
Songs they like. I had an Elvis guy come in and he sang Elvis. I told my dad this was the morning before he passed away at 2:20 in the afternoon. And this was about 10 o'clock in the morning. My father was he'd been unconscious for a couple of days, non-verbal, completely unconscious. I was holding his hand. I told him I had someone come in to sing him Elvis, and he squeezed my hand.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
They say hearing is the last thing to go. So I always say to family members, talk to them. They will hear you.
Yeah.
And when someone passes away and I'm doing aftercare, so we'll wash people down and we'll get them into clothes that the family choose. I will talk to them like I'd be giving them a wash if they were alive and talking to me. I still talk to them in that way because even though, like Mike said to us, that they believe your soul passes before your heart stops beating or you pass away.
Yeah.
I still believe that they're there. They're still overlooking their body even if they have left it. I still believe that they are there. Yeah. So I will still treat them and talk to them as though they are there with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's respectful.
True.
That's
absolutely.
Amazing. I'm just thinking as well, do you often see or feel the atmosphere change in the room then when you know that death is close? Do you feel that?
I don't know so much if you feel it. It's very different. I've had someone that was cognitive pass away and she knew what was happening and she was scared. And I used to sit with her on my lunch breaks. I used to sit there and hold her hand, just talk to her. I had someone pass away not that long ago. And I will go to some of my residents' funerals. If I'm close to that person, I will go to their funeral. I've taken other residents who are friends to their funerals.
Nice.
But this person, she turned around and she said, I'm dying. And I said, excuse me? I said, how do you know? And she said, it's different this time. I know. She said, I know I'm dying. And she'd been palliative before, but she said, this time's different. She said, I know.
So she must have had an understanding there.
Yeah, absolutely. She just said it's different and I know. So how
long was it before she got that feeling till she passed? How long the feeling did you think last? Maybe a day or two? Did she feel like that?
It was a couple of days. Absolutely. It was a couple of days. And she was still talking. It wasn't until the last day that she was nonverbal. And like once she got uncontrolled pain, we obviously give them pain relief. And generally in palliation, it's things like morphine. But very, very, very low dose.
Yeah.
So, but that's the first time I've actually had someone physically say to me, this is different.
Right. Interesting.
There's actually a mystical love and light. What is it? When my brother passed away, he contacted me through the TV.
Sorry, Chris.
TV husband, and I was getting ready to leave the house. I knew at the moment he had passed. When I got to the hospital, I know that. I know people that's happened to. I know people that has happened to.
The disconnected the ventilator. Sorry, Chris, there's more to it. The disconnected the ventilator and said he passed. I knew he had already passed before that. Mystical. Sorry to hear that.
Aye, it broke up for me there. I know people that's happened to. I know someone that was worked in the Navy, and one night they woke up to someone opening the door, and it was his grandfather standing before him, right?
Wow.
And he's like, I'm just here to tell you, son, that I love you, and it's time for me to go. Good to remember the ship's in the somewhere, right? and this person's in a Scottish
Middle of the
hospital,
ocean.
right? And anyway, about 10 minutes later, there was a chap at his door after the figure disappeared, and it was the captain. He said, "I'm sorry, but there's a message in the, you know how you phone chaps, but they had to do it through like radios. There's a message for you just to tell you your grandfather passed away 10 minutes ago."
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just reading
Middle of the
Phoenix
ocean,
Phoenix was
I know.
saying
Phoenix,
before their
Yep.
dad passed away, their grandmother came and they felt their presence. My grandmother used to come to my dad, but he could never see her. He just knew he smelt lavender, and my grandmother loved lavender.
Right.
So it's the same kind of thing.
So that's
Generally,
like
they'll.
Sorry, Kristen,
Sorry,
I
what
got
was
a
that,
bit
Drew?
excited there.
That's
I
okay.
get
What did you
excited
say?
because the honeysuckle smell came when we were in the haunted mansion. It happened to me with some honeysuckle with my granny. Didn't it, Christopher, when we were in the haunted mansion?
Aye, that's
I
right.
could smell
I
honeysuckle.
could smell it too, and there was none. There couldn't have been
There
honeysuckle
was nothing on
because
the top floor.
it was autumn. It was autumn,
We were on
and
the top floor.
there was no way there was.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And it was autumn.
I'll get back to it.
It's weird you should say that, because I remember going to see somebody one day. I was just very young at the time, and I can remember them telling me that when their father had died, they used to smell lilies. That's all they could smell was lilies, and this. But then I found out that, you remember in the olden days, and this is the olden days for the generation that's listening to this, they used to keep the coffin in the house. I don't know if they still do that anymore. They kept the coffin in the house, and there was lilies placed on top of the coffin casket. And I'm talking like maybe 6-7 months later, right? They're in that room, and they can smell lilies coming from nowhere. And it kept happening all the way for 5 or 6 years. Every a certain time of the year, it happened.
That wouldn't surprise me. And you'd probably find that would happen annually at the time that coffin was laid there in state. Yes. There are still some different religions that do have coffins laying in state.
Yes.
I won't say which one because I could get it wrong, but there is one that they have their family member. I'd like to say, I'm pretty sure which one it is, but yeah, I won't say. They'll put their family member in state.
Is it Christians? Because I can that's what my grandfather that was in the early 80s, and it was in the bedroom. And it was between two chairs.
We haven't done it. I'm Methodist Presbyterian, and it hasn't happened with us. But it could in other countries. But there is one culture that actually do lay their, I'd like to say, head of the family. When they pass, they lay them in state, and they have prayers. They say prayers around them, and they could have lollies on them. That could be the children. I don't know. But that smell would most likely come annually.
That's actually quite interesting. Charles has put in the chat there. I was holding my wife when she passed. She felt lighter, if you know what I mean. That is.
Oh wow!
I came what he's talking about.
Christine's face is lit up.
There is.
So
yeah.
Can you tell us, Christine, any
does that happen,
experience
Christine?
you've had to that?
Yeah, it can. Now it depends to whether people pass at home medicated or not.
Right.
Okay. Like we've had unexpected passings where people haven't been palliative, obviously at work. We've had palliative passings. We've had a lot of different things, but yeah, that can happen. Absolutely, that can happen. And
so that must be the soul. Then the soul must have some sort of weight on the body. Yeah. That's interesting. I never thought of that before.
Yeah,
shocked.
I haven't experienced that at work, obviously, because we're not sitting there holding the person necessarily. But I have had it said to me, and I have experienced it personally. Yeah.
That's something that Dobie Socks brought up there. My mum died suddenly, massive heart attack. I was 21. All I could recall is the death rattle. What is the death rattle? What is? I've never really experienced that.
Oh, I have. It's horrible. It is horrid. Yeah. So the death rattle, I first heard it with my father. We use medication at work to stop that. So everybody has fluid in the bottom of their lungs. When someone's passing away, that fluid comes up into the throat. So when they're breathing, you can hear like a gurgling fluid in their throat, and that's what we call the death rattle.
See, I've experienced that with overdoses. I've saved a couple people for overdose, and then I've experienced it then, but I just assumed that was because they were overdosing, you know. But obviously that must be a thing then.
Yeah, it is. And we use a medication called glycopyrrolate that dries up that fluid so that family don't have to experience that.
Yeah. When my grandmother died, that didn't happen because the nurse said they gave her something, and she didn't do that. She just slowly slipped away.
It's a lot
actually
nicer.
Another. Yes.
Yeah, I bet it's a lot
nicer.
Brie.
What's that one there,
Brie,
Drew?
that's Christine's daughter. My uncle was dying. I was driving to work, and all of a sudden could smell eucalyptus and felt like someone was in the car with me. Mum told me he passed, and the time was the exact time I felt that. Brie is actually Christine's daughter, guys. Wow.
Oh, hello, Brie. I'm terrible with names.
Yep.
I've experienced the strange smells.
Christine, when people's been passing. Sorry, Christopher.
What was that? Sorry, Drew.
It's okay, go first.
That's what I'm string.
No, Christopher can answer first. It's okay. You talk about the smells.
No, it's okay, Christine. No, what kind of smells have you experienced?
I was going to ask you what the strangest thing you've seen then. That's okay. Who's going first, Christopher? You or me? Right, okay, I'll go first and then Christopher, you can ask next. So what's the strangest thing you've seen then when somebody's been dying? Sorry, guys.
Work or personally?
Well, both. Do you really? Both.
At work would have been that person sitting there because I wasn't expecting it, because that was like the middle of the day. I've experienced quite a few things at work, but strangest thing, probably similar to Brie, that like my uncle that she's talking about, I actually cared for him at my work. Both him and my aunt, which is my dad's brother. They both were at my work. And I now have my mother's sister-in-law. She's in the independent living at my work. So we have independent living. So they've got their own cottages or their own apartments, and then they come up to us. And when my aunt died, I knew she'd gone. My uncle, when they took him away, I just said to him, I'll see you when you come back. And before my cousin told me, I knew he'd gone. And that was, it was just that sensation of, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think he was harder than my dad passing because he was so much like my dad. He was that comedian. When I went in to give him medications, excuse the language, but when I went in to give him medications, he'd just say, piss off. He'd just look at me and go, piss off. So I'm like, yeah thanks. And that was my dad's
I love you
humor.
too.
Yeah, pretty much. I turned around and said, yeah, okay, but I will be back. But it was that kind of banter that we could have. So it was like having my dad back.
Yeah.
And
brilliant.
When he passed away, it was like losing my dad all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And for my cousin, it was the same. She wrote a poem for my father and asked me to read it at the funeral because she couldn't cope with reading it. So it's very different. So that was the hardest. But yeah, knowing, because I was so close to my uncle and aunt and looking after them at work, which was just really different, having that connection and knowing that they'd gone, that was really weird and strange to me, because obviously I live in a house where we have all those people. So I'm used to dealing with the paranormal and spirits. Yeah.
That's actually an interesting
talk
thing.
about that in a minute, guys.
That's what I was just going to bring up. Actually, I was just going to bring up: is your house haunted? Oh, and also,
when you go, Chris.
Christine's father's actually on the thumbnail for this show tonight. You'll see him sitting. So there you go.
Yep, that's him. That was 2 weeks before he died. That photo.
Oh.
That was, we took him out that day to a place called Alpha Miniature Railway. He helped build it when he was 18. What? He was a foundation member and an honorary life member, and his dying wish was to go down there one last time. And by this stage, he had dysphagia. Like, my dad had Parkinson's disease and he had broken his back at work. But he got diagnosed with terminal cancer. And the hospital, when he got it, told us he had 3 days to live because his doctor missed the diagnosis. And we took him out of the hospital. I asked for a stent to be put in so the bile could drain from him. And he was there in palliative care, and we got 9 weeks. But that was the last day he was out of bed. We hired a wheelchair taxi. We hired that wheelchair that he was in, which is like a princess chair, but it was a wheelchair. He was still able to take steps, but not much. And he wanted to sit up on the platform of the club rooms and watch the trains go by. That was his dying wish. And the president of the railway actually got, he got a train down from New South Wales, which is another state to us. And he brought it because most of the trains you've got to climb over them to get into them, where my father couldn't do that. And I said, he won't be driving today anyway. And they bought this train that the door opened. And I said, he's only allowed out of the wheelchair to go to the toilet. So they put on the sign on the side of the train, toilet. So he could go. And they stopped all the trains on the track for him to drive around, and he's now in the Avenue of Honour there. He chose his tree.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. That is one of the nicest stories I've ever heard.
He got his dying wish.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there don't get their dying wish. You know, he was very lucky.
Exactly.
You know, and for all time now, his story will be heard on here, and his picture will be on the thumbnail.
Yep.
So forever.
We're just very lucky we got more than 3 days, because that was on the 5th of December. So we got one last Christmas with him, and we just made sure that we did videos. So whenever we miss him now, we just can play those videos and hear his voice.
Yeah.
That is amazing, isn't it? You can have that.
It is sad when you lose a loved one, because I lost my sister-in-law's father. He died just before Christmas. And is it COPD, that thing where you can't breathe?
Yeah.
And I couldn't
Yeah,
believe
my
it. I
mum's
mean,
got that.
like 4 weeks before he died, I was talking to him on Facebook. He was actually talking to me about one of my videos that I put out on here. And then he passed.
It's
And I was
sad.
just like,
Yeah, I've lost 2
it was
friends
just,
in the last fortnight.
yeah. It's so
Crazy.
sad. There's actually an interesting thing there from within. My friend's dad, who passed just over a year ago, came to me on his birthday. In my head, I had no idea why. Then I was Facebook and noticed his profile, and it was his birthday, and it made sense. See, that's quite interesting. That is that ever happened to you? Like, someone that you know has maybe lost somebody, but they don't show themselves to that person. They show themselves to someone like you, because you're a wee bit open to that.
I see a lot of people, not necessarily people I want to see.
Yeah.
My first experience with paranormal was when I was 9. And that's a whole different story. But I lost someone when I was 17 because they didn't cope with. We have VCE here, so your HSC, so it's year 12 basically, the end of high school, and he wasn't coping. And I was on a camp with high school, so I couldn't be contacted. And he hung himself in the garage so his family would find him.
Oh God.
And I came home to a suicide note that was read out at his funeral. I went to his funeral, so did a lot of his classmates. And him and I used to talk all the time. And he said, I had no way to contact you, so this was my only way out. Ever since then, I've always made sure that if anybody wants someone to talk to, I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
So whether it's paranormal, afterlife.
See, that's a bit hard putting that on you, isn't it?
It was sad
to put that on you, though.
No, it was hard at the time. It was devastating at the time. Like, I wish it wasn't read out at his funeral. But it made me realize that everybody needs somebody, whether it be paranormal or corporeal. Everybody needs someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And at some point in their life, they will always need someone.
That's a good point. Now, Drew, you'd be good at saying this too, that if you're feeling depressed, talk to somebody. You know, if you're feeling depressed and you feel like doing something, don't do it. Talk to somebody first. You know, it's
always
depression is
to
a
somebody.
terrible,
There's
terrible
always
thing.
somebody will listen.
Yeah.
And anybody that's on this podcast, if you are struggling, guys, always reach out to the Samaritans or somebody or a close friend that you know will listen. Don't ever struggle alone.
Yeah. Exactly.
So do you think all these people then, Christine, like your loved ones and different ones that you looked after, have followed you home then, seeing as your house is so active?
I haven't had anyone from work follow me home.
Christina's got a haunted house, you see, guys.
Yeah.
But Brianna has. She's had nice people follow her home from her job. But yeah, she could tell you about that one day.
We'll need to get her on.
Yeah, enjoy that one, Brie.
Brie, do you hear that, Brie? You're next.
But no, I've got my father here, obviously. I've had other family members come here. I've had, as Mike told us, we have shades here. They were actually here the other day. Brianna and I were talking about it. We were talking about Mike. I like that. Breeze put, I heard that loud and clear.
Just seen that there, popped up.
Oh, good. Interview for next week because I would love to be.
Mike always said, like I used to turn around and say I had borrowers because things would just go missing and then turn up again. And he said, no, it's shades putting their hands over things. And then when they take the hand away, you can find it again. The other day, I was looking for my headphones and I only keep them in my bag. And I'm like, they're not there. And I thought I'd maybe left them at the hospital with my mum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, they would have told me, or mum would have noticed it. And I turned my bag upside down. We ended up buying another pair. And then the next day, they were back in my bag.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But we've had not so nice people here too. We've had people imitating our voices.
That.
Yeah, we've had people imitating our voices.
Could you tell us?
Wow.
That was one of Bree's friends came to stay one day, and he had me telling him to get out, apparently, but it wasn't me. He's had a tall man standing at the door, which was my uncle, and talking to him, standing over him. He's not too
making sure he's a nice friend to be.
I don't know what it was with him. He's the only one that's had the negative side of things, but he's also the one that Briannon's had. Briannon went to the bathroom, said, I'll be back. And when she came back to talk on the phone, he said, I thought you were going to the bathroom. She goes, I did. He said, well, I've been talking to you the whole time. And then she heard a female voice down the end of the hall laughing.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and when we had a piece of quartz, it was quite a large cluster, a natural cluster. It was in the house, and we had things getting thrown at us. More Briannon, more her room. Like the last time we were on here, her phone went. It was her room. But she's had things thrown at her off her wardrobe and everything. We've had things getting thrown in the kitchen. But as soon as we took the cluster out, everything stopped that was negative. So
really? That's very interesting.
Mike told us that was generally a spirit from the mountains that do that kind of thing, that are attached to minerals. And then we found out my uncle gave it. Yeah, my uncle gave it to my other daughter, Cheyenne. And we found out that came from a miner's hut, because we're in gold mining territory here. And that came from a miner's hut in the mountains. But we didn't find that out until later.
Oh.
Very cool.
See, that's
people will take that type of thing quite well, because it's like they're gold. Sorry, Chris. There is a bit of lag. Sorry, guys, we keep talking over each other. I don't mean it.
It's absolutely fine. It's true what you say, Drew. You need to watch what you pick up.
Yeah, I've noticed Bree's just put in too about her Furby. She had, it looks like a little gremlin doll. And the batteries were taken, well, it wasn't originally, it used to turn on and talk. But these ones, if you neglect them, they turn devilish. And this one did that angry voice. She took the batteries out and it still kept going. Still kept talking.
Oh, wow.
With no batteries in it.
Ooh. Oh, dear. I think that's going to be sent to Drew.
Postage is a bit much. I think you better keep it in Australia.
I'd be going to sleep at night with the Bible and the crucifix. Hey, Dan. I'd be going to sleep at night with the Bible and the crucifix.
No, we haven't had anything bad like that lately. Nothing's been
lately.
since that quartz has gone. Nothing's been really bad here. Like we hear walking up and down the hallway at night, and we know that's my dad because when with his broken back, when he was in a lot of pain, he used to just walk up and down the hallway, and that's more residual.
Right.
That energy. I've had my dad come to work with me. He was shaking the keys on the passenger seat in the front. I watched my keys shake, and then they'd stop. Then they'd shake again, and they'd stop. And that went for about 10 minutes. And I'm like, will you just give it a rest? I'm trying to drive a car here. And it stopped completely.
Enjoy the ride, Dad. See, that's amazing, things like that. So in your house then, I take it, Christine, everybody, see, to me, death should be celebrated. A lot of people's got the old-fashioned attitude where death and they're down and you mourn for the person, which is fair enough. There is a time for mourning that person. But I also feel it's a time to celebrate. It's a time to celebrate
their life.
The fact that these people are in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, guys, if I laugh on things. I think it's a celebration.
My dad never coped, and he never saw his mum, but I did. He said, why is she coming to you and why can't I see her? And I said, well, I can't explain that. I said, maybe you can smell her. He said, well, I do smell lavender every now and then. And my nan always had lavender everywhere. And I said, well, that's her way of coming to you. I said, maybe you're just not open to seeing her because you wouldn't cope seeing her. And she knows. It's, I don't believe that, I don't believe that certain people are sensitive and certain people aren't. I believe that you have to be open to that. Just like Drew, with you and your witchcraft and your spells and your beliefs and your rituals, and Mike with his rituals. You have to be open and have that intent. If you're open to paranormal, like children, they're innocent. They don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's real, what's not. They're open to it. As adults, we close ourselves off. I think if you make yourself open to that, everybody is able to have that experience. Some people are scared, and that's completely fine. Believe me, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've experienced, for lack of a better word, a wraith at my sister's in Tasmania. I've never been to Tasmania, but I experienced what she was going through. Unfortunately, I have another ability that I didn't know I had until then. And I was able to see more so in my mind's eye. It's like astraling. I described her house to her. I described her house to her, told her what was going on. She didn't know that her now ex-husband made a homemade Ouija board and was using it in the house.
All right.
Yeah, he was.
Bad things come through.
That one.
Yeah, that was an understatement. And my sister didn't know how to get rid of it, how to deal with it. Now, I'll go back to when I was 9 years old. Was my first experience with a spirit, and it terrified me. Where I used to live, my father built a house there, so I knew that nobody had passed away in the house. So I never knew what a traditional female American Indian looked like. But that's what I was seeing at the end of my hall every night.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't walk down the hallway without a light on.
No wonder.
Right.
Must be scary.
It was terrifying, but she never did anything. She didn't come towards me or anything. She was just watching me. Whether that is one of my spirit guides, I don't know. I've actually just had someone, we have what's called mystical fairs here. And someone that I've told you about, Drew, my friend that's a white witch, Deb, She really? I went to see her at one of these mystical. Sorry, it was my cat.
Cat.
I went and was seeing her at one of these mystical fairs, and there was a person there that was doing spirit guide drawings, and he does them in his spare time. You had to give him your name, your date of birth, and all I could think of was Mike when he was saying you'd never give out your full name. But he needed the full name and your date of birth so he could tune into you. And he does guide drawings. Well, Brie and I are still waiting for ours because Brianna's, one of her guides is a wolf. So we're seeing what he comes up with because I know one of her guides. Ever since she was born, she's always had a wolf sleep beside her bed, a white wolf. And I just don't know whether this Indian is one of my guides. But she was always there. So from that time on, I've always studied the paranormal because I wanted to educate myself and understand. So maybe that's kept me open to the paranormal side of things, and law and mystical things and things that are otherworldly. I've always been open to because I've always studied about them because I didn't want to feel that terrified anymore.
Don't blame you. Did you find out where the spirit of the native... Sorry, on you go, Chris. It's okay, on you go.
I was just going to say, maybe that Indian spirit, there's a bit of a delay, I know. There's a, maybe was there as a guide for you, that was first. Maybe you knew her in a previous life. Maybe she agreed to look after you.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to do it, have a past life reading done. I've never had that done. But like I've also said to Drew,
I don't think she's there to scare you. The impression I get is she's merely a guide. I don't know where that's coming from. To me, I don't see that she's there to scare you. Maybe you were scared, but I wouldn't see her being there to scare you. I don't know. It's weird.
No, I didn't feel that she was. If she was there to scare me or hurt me, she could have. She had that chance. Yeah. She was there for years, every night. But if I turned the light on, she wasn't there.
Wow.
So
probably
if she wanted something, if she wanted to hurt me, she could have, but she never did. But whether that was my way of learning and staying open and finding out about it, or whether that is, yes, she's my guide, she's my warning, I don't know. Or she could be like Mike's little no-eyed girl. I don't know.
Well, she might be there. She might be there protecting you until you were ready to start seeing other spirits. She maybe knew that you would have started seeing spirits, right? And she was placed with you to basically protect you, shield you until you were ready to encounter new spirits.
Or maybe she knew that that was going to be part of my future and she knew I'd be scared and maybe shut down. So maybe it was while I was still open, while I was still
to see if it all reveals.
Yeah, I want to say I'm waiting to see what this picture is. It'll be interesting to see what this picture is from this person. Deb said she was going to be on today. She was going to be in the chat and watching. So it'll be interesting to see if she did. Because Deb's the person I've told you about, Drew. Right. Remember the one I've told you about? She's also got a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel. She's with Sacred Lotions and Potions.
Yeah.
And she is just... She's fantastic. She's such a lovely, genuine person. Very much like you, Drew. But she's so down to earth. She's so knowledgeable. Yeah.
There's a message from Danny. There's a message from Chest and Bones. What's the white wolf that you speak of? What type of... What is that? Sorcery.
Sorcery
It's
is
not
this.
sorcery, Danny. It's not
I had to do it.
sorcery,
I had to put
Danny.
it up.
Sorcery.
The
He's being
white
funny.
wolf is Bree's guardian. It's one of her spirit guides. She has two, but the white wolf is the one that is always with her.
That's interesting, that is. See, Danny Jason Bones, he's the one to ask about that because he knows about spirits and that type of... I don't have a clue what wolves actually mean. Drew, do you?
The wolf spirit is a protector and a guider. The wolf spirit is actually a bit of everything because he guides. Well, I've got a wolf spirit as Timber, as a lot of you will know, and he's a guider. He's a protector, and he's basically everything. He's a nourisher as well, because if you're feeling down, you feel your wolf spirit around you as well. Wolf spirits are amazing. It would take a full podcast to explain, but it's an amazing experience. I'm glad you've got a wolf spirit around you.
Well, Bree would love to know a bit more about that. So there you go, Danny. Talk to Bree.
Talk to her about it. Mm-hmm. Sure.
I've always felt bonded to traditional Indigenous Americans. I don't know why. Right. It was actually a Cherokee Indian that named my daughter Cheyenne. Because I was
wondering that with the name Cheyenne.
I'd had cancer a couple of times, and I'd had chemotherapy. I'd had 2 years of chemotherapy and radiation treatment, and other treatments. I shouldn't have even been able to fall pregnant with her because it was before her.
Right.
And then when I was 8 weeks pregnant with her, I contracted a disease called toxoplasmosis. And the hospital told me that she wouldn't survive. People at that gestation, they have severe birth defects, or they're vegetated, or they die within hours of being born, or die before being born. And then I had what's called an amniocentesis, where they put a needle straight into the stomach, and then they take out amniotic fluid to test it for this disease, to see if the amniotic sac contains that disease, then the baby will have that infection, which it did. And it's an incurable disease. I have it for the rest of my life, but it does go dormant in the carrier. And so I was 20 weeks pregnant and they were going to terminate. I found out a lot of stuff and found out that her brain was growing normally, so I took a chance. But before I even found out,
I'm glad you did, because Brianna is here.
No, it's not Brianna, it's Cheyenne, this one. This was Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, right, okay.
Yeah. I went out one night and this singer I found out was a Cherokee Indian. I used to go and see him sing every Sunday night. And he said that I was about, 12, 13 weeks pregnant. And it said that I was going to have a girl. Didn't know what I was having at this stage. And that she was going to be healthy. And her name would be Cheyenne. And then I found out that her brain was growing normally. They gave me her chromosome count when I had the amnio, so I knew I was having a girl. And when I went through the pregnancy healthy, there was no other option. She was going to be called Cheyenne. So,
wow,
that was
had
fate.
Had to be.
Yeah, but it was real. I felt it was weird that a Cherokee was saying her name would be Cheyenne.
Yeah, wow.
That's
so cool.
See, yeah. I wonder if it was the same. I wonder if it was the same spirit that came to you when you were a little girl that was
Well, I don't know
protecting her and
because
helping her.
I don't know because the spirit I saw was a female.
The two of them is Indian, isn't
So
it?
I don't know.
Mhm.
Both of them are
Don't
Indian.
know.
Yeah.
There's definitely
There'll be a
some
connection.
sort of connection with traditional American Indians. And it wasn't until I watched a TV show that I knew what a traditional American Indian looked like. And really weird. It was
Right.
yeah, it was a TV show. So it was Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. There you go.
Oh,
and that's what I knew that
yeah.
what an American Indian looked like.
Yeah, that's
It shows you though, doesn't
that
it?
is
I mean, that's
amazing,
just
that.
strange that you're connected to it, and
yeah, well, there's a reason.
strange world we live in.
It is a strange
much
world
so.
we live in. I mean,
Is there a reason for everything?
it's absolutely amazing how we're all connected, and I mean how like Danny in the chat and how everybody in the chat's got similar experience with wolves and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
you were meant to come on this show and tell your story, like how you were meant to come on and tell your story about your dad, and how you've told stories about other people. See, that's maybe helping people. That's maybe in the
And
same
how I've
situation.
and also how I've gotten to know you guys with my background as my
I
grandfather
think that
being Scottish.
we're all.
I think we're
I
all
honestly
connected.
feel as if we were destined to meet that. All of us. I really do feel that, especially Uncle Danny and different people like Phoenix, yourself, Christopher, and things. I feel as if that we all have got a connection somewhere. We just can't see it. You know?
Yeah.
It could be the wolves.
We should actually do it. We should do a show one night with you, Christine and Drew, and we should get Danny on too, and Brew too. We should really try and do something like that, because I think Danny could help you out big time.
Yeah, I'm up for it.
We'll need to try and do something like a
do.
special
Either
event
this
on that
channel,
one.
my channel, or something.
Or your channel.
Sure.
Yeah, your channel, Drew, would
For
probably
sure,
be better, because
guys.
then a lot of people could. But I would just like to thank you for coming.
Just easier for anybody.
There's Brew. She's in. I would just like to thank you for coming tonight, and your first. This will be your first major podcast live. See, Mike the Naked Bigfoot was correct. You see,
Mike was the one that wanted me to come on.
Yeah.
Mike's
and he's
amazing.
probably here
He's
in
missed
spirit.
every day, guys. Yes, Mike.
I would like to say something about Mike. It was actually his birthday. Was it 2 days ago, Christine? Was his birthday 2 days ago? It was.
Yeah, it was on Twitter.
Bigfoot's birthday.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a few days ago now. Yeah, that was. I really want to know about that phone.
I know. So they
I
are.
want to know about the phone as
So
well.
they are.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I would just like to say, because he's probably watching in spirit, because I know he is, right? I would just like to wish him, and everybody in the chat, I wish if you could wish Mike the Naked Bigfoot a very happy birthday. You know, because I think he would have been on here watching. You know, and I would also like to thank Christine for coming on. Drew, you're an amazing co-host. See the compliments.
Thank you
both
of you for inviting me.
I will get the delay fixed. I will get the delay
fixed. Fine. Just throw a Mars bar to your hamster on the internet. You know, that's what it is. It's been a Snickers or something like that. You know.
Yeah, it's what it needs.
But next week, what's the subject for next week, Drew? We've not got a guest for next week. What can we do next
week? I don't know. We could figure something out. We could maybe get another guest on. I don't know. We'll see Mystical Love and Light or something. Maybe she'll come on. We'll see somebody, guys.
We'll have to try something like that. Yeah.
Somebody will take
if you're interested in coming on, guys, just message me. Maybe Danny on again or something like that. So, Drew, thank you for coming. Christine, thank you for coming. I'd let you plug your YouTube, but you don't have a YouTube channel, do you? Or a TikTok?
No, I don't. No, I don't have either. But when Bree and I go out, we're going to go to Arradale, to J Ward, which is a haunted asylum in Ararat in Victoria. and we're going to go to Beechworth. So when we do the overnights there, we'll probably put them up on YouTube then.
Yep.
Brilliant,
Well, as soon as that
Christine.
happens,
Brilliant.
please give me the link so as we can all subscribe and Drew can subscribe. And yep. So I would like to thank everybody in the chat for coming. There's a video released tomorrow where me and Alan's wandering about a graveyard in the cold, and we're going somewhere on Friday. So everybody have a great week and a great weekend, and I'll speak to you, Drew and Christine, behind the scenes, as I say. Everybody,
and I'd like to thank everybody for coming, but
dudes.
Also everybody in my house for being nice.
Oh, thank you, Spirits, for being
well.
good.
Last time, I was waiting for something to happen.
Don't
Because Bree's phone died
me.
last time, so they've been nice
Danny.
to me today.
Danny. Don't visit me, Spirits.
Right, the last time I was speaking to you in podcast, I played with the phones.
Yeah, Bree's phone went very.
We're playing with the phones the last time.
Yep, it was Bree's one, so they were nice to me. But I had my computer here as a backup in case.
Yeah. So if you can hear me, Spirits, in Christian's house, don't visit me. Visit Drew, because Drew will entertain you, or visit Danny or MD in the chat, but no me. I've got enough.
As long as you go
the
back.
only one that would visit you would be my dad, and he'd always be nice to you.
Oh, you can
Thank
visit
you,
me
everybody, for
anytime.
Yeah. I'll talk to the two of you behind the scenes, but catch you all later, guys. Have a great night.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.